What's going on, everyone? So the Phoenix Suns have officially traded for Nick Richards. So they have sent Josh Okogie and 3 second-round picks to Denver, one theirs, for Nick Richards and a second-round pick. Obviously, this impacts the Lakers because Nick Richards was a guy that made a lot of sense for the Lakers, was a guy that the Lakers really could have had, and kind of feels like, man, it would have been nice to have a Nick Richards. Now, talked about this in the past, however, like Nick Richards, I don't think is like the be all end. It's like, oh my gosh, that's it. The Lakers, they're cooked. Like, no, I think Sharpe has more upside, more potential. He gives you nearly the same exact stats. The only thing is Nick Richards is a true 7-footer, where Sharpe is like 6'9", 6'10". I mean, he's listed anywhere. Like, you look up his height, like you'll get anywhere from like 6'9" to 6'11", right? So let's meet in the middle and say he's 6'10" with shoes. But he's still giving the same type of production. He's also a bigger body, right? So he just got more weight behind him. Makes some sense. Also is basically, it's actually technically a little cheaper, but roughly the same price. There's still options there. I still maintain Jonas Valanciunas is probably the most likely to end up a Laker. But Nick Richards is a guy that I wanted to see the Lakers land him and pieces, right? Like, ideally, I wanted a Hornets trade where you got Nick Richards and you got like a Josh Green or, a Cody Martin or even all three, to where you kind of get 2 3-and-D wings and then also get that backup center that can plug in, slot in, and kind of play for the team. Like, that was kind of my hope, rather than just Nick Richards, unless it was like Nick Richards, but you got a Bruce Brown and then a couple other pieces or whatever. And it's like, okay, we still need a backup center. Go get Bruce Brown. So to me, this boils down to 3 guys, right? One, it's Jonas Valanciunas, which I still think is most likely. 2, it's Sharpe. Or 3, it's Nikola Vucevic, who I had a video that I was actually going to post at this time slot, but we just got the Suns news, so I scheduled that video for tomorrow because we have a Lakers game later today, which hope to see all of you at the live stream. So that video, because the Warriors, they seem content. They seem like they're not going to make any big pushes or any big splashes. And based on reports, it boiled down to the Lakers and the Warriors for Nikola Vucevic. So does that mean the Warriors are out and Lakers are basically the primary team to end up landing Nikola Vucevic? Just something to keep in mind. Obviously, we won't know until the end result. But now that Nick Richards is off the board, I think the Lakers now, either, if they even really were after him, right? There were reports that they had interest and they touched base, but that doesn't mean that they would have necessarily asked for him. But, is it something where, like, okay, so now Sharpe, is that where they go? Where they go like the smaller amount? Do they go big with Nikola Vucevic, right? I mean, like player-wise, like skill level-wise, right? Like Sharpe is the young development guy, but can make a real impact now. Then you have, Jonas Valanciunas, who is like the veteran who can help now, but, is kind of best as a backup. You don't really want him starting very much. And then Nikola Vucevic, he would be your starter at center. He'd be the guy that come in, 2010 guy, kind of the higher end guy. So I think it really boils down to those 3 guys. There are other options. Obviously, Walker Kessler would be ideal, or could they go look at like a Clint Capella or something like that? There's other center options on the table, but the reason Nick Richards made so much sense was because he was cheap and he was very obtainable, right? So it was kind of like, okay, like you could get a guy that doesn't break the bank. He's making $5 million next year too, on top of getting a guy that actually fills a hole in a need and can kind of better round out this roster. But Nick Richards isn't this like, he's not this like defensive monster and this like guy that's just gonna, like, Lakers are the best team ever. Like, I still have made the argument that Sharpe I would prefer, right? And again, he's younger, cheaper. He just doesn't have the true 7-foot size. Now, don't get me wrong. I wanted Nick Richards. I would have loved to have Nick Richards. Nick Richards definitely would have helped, but he's a guy that is probably forever best in the backup role, where Sharpe, I think, has the potential to eventually move into your starting role. Plus, he's shown the ability to stretch the floor and knock down the 3 ball, right? So that's where my argument for Sharpe has always been. I think, has the potential to be your starter one day, where Nick Richards is probably best in that backup role. But for the Suns, he's probably going to be their backup, which makes sense for the Suns because they really kind of need that piece. They kind of need that guy that can kind of plug in and be that that kind of just rebounding middleman in the center. I'm curious to see what they do with Nurk now. Do they keep him? Do they move off of him? But they have Plumlee, right? So you got to imagine another trade for the Suns are coming at some point where they're going to try to unload Nurk, but they're incredibly limited on assets and things like that. So something to kind of keep an eye on in that regard. But again, like, I don't want to undersell Nick Richards because I do think Nick Richards helps the Phoenix Suns a lot, right? More so than the Lakers, I think. Right? Because, again, like, they need that guy. Like, Lakers, Anthony Davis is going to play, especially come playoff time, probably 40 minutes at the center position, right? So I do think that Nick Richards makes more sense for the Suns and what they need rather than the Lakers, but he would have been a great piece for the Lakers, right? But I think that this is a huge pickup for the Suns where it would have been a really good pickup for the Lakers. But I think that the Lakers still have other options. The thing is that's frustrating is, like, why didn't they get it done? Why didn't the Lakers go get him if all it took technically was 2 seconds? Right? Because the Lakers have 2 seconds. Are they saving those seconds for a bigger piece? Supposedly, Nikola Vucevic can be had for 2 seconds. So that's kind of why I'm leaning towards maybe the Lakers really do make that move. Do the Lakers really do make that splash and go get Vu? All right, because, again, you look at like what the Suns traded. They traded a Kogi and essentially 2 seconds because it was 3 seconds, but they're getting a second back. So really it was a Kogi, 3 seconds, but they're getting Nick Richards and a second. So really they only gave up 2 seconds of value. Lakers have 2 seconds that they could trade, like in next year's draft. So you're telling me you couldn't have done something where it would have been, now maybe the Hornets, there we go. Maybe it's the Hornets liked Okogie. That could be a possibility. Maybe they just really liked him as a player. Also, maybe they didn't want to take on multiple guys because the Lakers would have had to probably trade something like a Christian Wood and a Cam Reddish, right? Or a Jalen Hood-Schifino and a Cam Reddish. Maybe they're looking at it as like, that's just salary filler, where Okogie is a guy that can actually make sense for us. Also, we can maybe unload Okogie to actually get maybe another second or two back, right? Maybe a team would give up a second or two to bring in Okogie. Something to kind of keep in mind. Guy that could be that defensive kind of two-way guy for a team. So I could maybe see that that's where the Hornets' head was at, where it's like we get a piece that we can either keep or use or look to flip and move for other draft compensation, or we could take the Lakers and just, we're getting expiring contracts. That could be the idea, because not everybody, just because Brooklyn wanted nothing but expiring contracts, doesn't mean all teams want that. Right? Some teams want actual guys or guys that they can flip and turn into other things and so on and so forth, where, if we're trading Jalen Hood-Schifino and Christian Wood, right, or Jalen Hood-Schifino and like a Cam Reddish or something like that, or a Jackson Hayes, like they don't really, like, they're not going to get anything for that. Or a Okogie, they might be able to get some assets, right? They might be able to get a second or two. So that's the difference. Where the Nets, which is why I kind of lean towards Day'Ron Sharpe being most likely as far as like the cheaper salary guys, because that's all the Nets want are expiring deals. They just want, so they'd be happy with a Jalen Hood-Schifino and a Jackson Hayes because that's all they want. Right? They want to clear the deck for next season and recoup assets. So you might be able to get a Day'Ron Sharpe for 2 seconds and, and a Jalen Hood-Schifino and say Jackson Hayes, right? Like, boom, there you go. There's that. And now the Lakers get Day'Ron Sharpe. So I still lean towards Day'Ron Sharpe, Nikola Vucevic, or Jonas Valanciunas being the most likely. It is very interesting, right? Like, the more things continue to develop, the more things kind of start playing itself out, the more I'm leaning towards Nikola Vucevic may end up being a Laker. Again, this is just my guess, just based on the information that we have. I could be completely wrong, but it's just like, you keep hearing Vu being named. We know that the Lakers spoke and were working on a deal with Chicago for potentially adding Vu. The Warriors were the other team that, he was their big target. So you had the Warriors and the Lakers, but the Warriors seem to be bowing out and just calling it a season. Now, could they still maybe go get Nikola Vucevic just to, lay a foundation for next season? And then worst case scenario is, an expiring contract that they can look to trade next season? Possibly. But if they're looking to kind of compete, I mean, it kind of makes sense for them to just try to get the best pick possible. Just kind of ride with what you got and figure it out next season, especially with Steph, Draymond, and Steve Kerr kind of on board and understand the circumstances and the situation that they're in. So they might look at it as like, hey, stay away from Nikola Vucevic, and then maybe the Lakers, that could be the Lakers' opportunity to kind of swoop in and maybe land Vu, especially if you can get him for 2 seconds. Kind of makes sense. But I still think Valanciunas is... It's one of those things like, I think Val is the answer until something else happens. Day'Ron Sharpe, you can make a real argument for because the Nets and the Lakers already pulled off a trade. So you have that kind of built in, like, hey, like we already have a history together type thing. So, again, those are the 3 guys that I think are most likely to be Lakers. Those are 3 guys I've kind of maintained are most likely to be Lakers. I haven't really talked much about Nick Richards because 1, up until recently, it wasn't even really available. And 2, it's just like, unless you're getting other pieces, it kind of doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Like, to me, I think the Lakers are trying to make, swing trades. Right? They're trying to get like a Nikola Vucevic and then like a Bruce Brown, or they're trying to get like a Day'Ron Sharpe with like a Bruce Brown and whatever else, right? A Kyle Kuzma or something like that, right? Like, I think that they're going to make a big swing trade, and it'll either be it'll be like Vu, a big center, and, that kind of perimeter guy, or it'll be like a Day'Ron Sharpe and 2 perimeter guys, right? That's kind of what I lean towards. But anyway, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. As always, do you think that this is this is disappointing? Are you frustrated? Are you not? You kind of like, it's all right. It's not a big deal. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.